Hello everyone. I'm going to talk today about how you can win against the enemy. And it's spurred on by something that's been happening lately. I noticed a tactic of the enemy. And God has spoken so many good things over my life. And I know He's spoken so many good things over your life. And the problem comes is when we have a promise from God, but then there's all these contrary circumstances that happen, and the enemy plays all these things in your mind. Let's say you're supposed to be a doctor and you're in school to become a doctor, and then maybe you get kicked out of school for some reason unjustly, and then it's like, oh man, am I going to become a doctor? Or maybe you're a doctor and you have a promise to become a great doctor, and you're seeing just a few patients, and it's COVID time, and it's hard, business is hard, and then the enemy's saying, oh yeah, all bringing all these thoughts in your head, like trying to get you discouraged and things like that. So here's the thing, is that when you remember the promises of God, and when you stay in the limits of what God has said, then the enemy cannot beat you. But when you start considering other things than what God has said, that's where the enemy can beat you. So you have to stay in the word of what God has said. So this is what happened to Eve in the garden. God had said, don't eat from that tree. And the enemy came and he started deceiving her. And he said, oh, did God really say? So if she would have stayed in the bounds, in the boundaries of what God has said, she would have been safe. But she shouldn't have been considering other things than what God has said. And that's where a lot of us go wrong, is where we start considering things that are contrary to what God has said. So I just want to encourage you, stay in those boundaries. Remember God's promises. We have to meditate on things that God has spoken to us. We have to really keep them in our forethought so that the enemy can't come and start chirping in your ear and lead you and try and deceive you to believe something that is not true. Because if God has spoken about you, then what He has said is true, and anything the enemy says, it's always a lie. So, it would stop a whole bunch of storms and a whole bunch of turmoil and a whole bunch of, pain and suffering if we just remember God's promise and we stay in those boundaries and say, okay, for the doctor, Lord, you said that I'm going to be a doctor one day. So then you apply to a new school and you get in, you stay in those boundaries. You don't get all worked up. Oh no, they kicked me out of school. What's going to happen? What about my funding? All these things can come up. But if you stay in the boundaries of God, then you can remain in a place where you have peace with God. You can stay in there with God and say, okay, this is what the Lord has said. So even though there's contrary circumstances, even though there's turmoil, I can rest in God because what He said will come to pass. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I pray that you would apply this into your life and, just be blessed, guys. And if you like the video, please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.